Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to this episode. My name is Minerva Elias, and what I can say about myself is that with science and technology deep in my heart and background, I spent the past 15 years working with private and public research organizations, universities, startups, governmental institutions, and financial intermediaries. And my goal has always been supporting these entities to access funding, finance, and capacitating them with the ultimate goal to foster innovation. I work today at the European Investment Fund. The EIF, as part of the EIB group, is focused on improving access to finance for SMEs and entrepreneurs all across Europe. We do that by designing and implementing debt and equity financial instruments through which we take on a degree of risk and help fundraise from private investors so that our partners, more than 600 funds and 400 financial institutions like banks, are able to reach out and offer financing to more entrepreneurs and SMEs. I'm currently managing the equity programs that aim to support policy objectives of the European Union, and improving access to finance for AI and blockchain companies is one of them. In this video, I will walk you through some of the critical challenges we see in financing AI and blockchain technologies. What is the EIF doing in financing AI blockchain technologies, offering some concrete examples, and provide you with a flavor of the future financing and capacity building schemes dedicated to financing AI and blockchain. Let me start with the challenges. It's a fact that there is still today very limited volumes of finance available in Europe for AI and blockchain. For instance, according to a recent EIB group report, in 2019, we saw that of the total 25 billion euro investment made available globally for these technologies, Europe accounted only for 7%, translating into just 1.8 billion, far behind the US and China. We must recognize that Europe risk capital market has made progress. But despite a tenfold increase in AI and blockchain investments in Europe from 2016 to 2019, venture capital funding remains a key issue for our economy as innovation is growing. The European investment gap in the field of AI and blockchain remains somewhere between 5 to 10 billion euros annually. And we saw that this gap appears to be caused mainly by a shortfall in the equity investments and primarily in AI as compared to a smaller gap in the blockchain investments, which is about 1 to 2 billion a year. The gap is also more pronounced in the later stage of financing, such as Series A onwards, as compared to the pre-seed or seed stage, which Europe is successfully addressing in the recent years. Today, we still see a venture capital ecosystem which is not very specialized, not very thematically oriented. Many VC funds provide generalist investment strategies, and limited partners still look with contracted appetite into these technologies, despite the proven transversal potential for multiple industries and important for Europe's economy. But why is this happening? Well, we see that it may be partially due to the business models requiring high initial capex investments, cash flows and commercial transactions occurring only after customers and consumers have tested the technologies. AI technologies need to be incorporated into ready-to-use products or services with direct applicability, which obviously takes time. But another factor could be also the low exit opportunities for AI and blockchain investments in the EU, which is related to the limited value of tech initial public offerings, IPOs. But I'll speak about this in a while. Let me turn now onto the technological challenges. So we see that the transition from lab to business is still not smooth enough as we would like. Europe is worldwide leader in research and publications, but we flop to transfer them to markets. We are good at putting money into science, but not as good as making money out of it. So we also hear from the community, for instance, that there is a need for improved tech literacy through educational programs, vocational and non-vocational training for SMEs, entrepreneurs, startups, and students. There is also a challenge in monetizing and valorizing deep tech business models, which may be at times difficult for investors to evaluate and to be seduced by. And there is urgency for democratization in the form of improved access to technology for companies in need of onboarding or adapting their business models to new artificial intelligence technologies. Well, we don't have the answers to all of these challenges. At EIF, we're in the journey to channel much needed financing into this area. And let me tell you how, practically speaking. So the EIF focuses on supporting both new and emerging venture capital firms, pursuing investments in this area, but most importantly, in specialized teams focusing on AI and blockchain, possessing a mix of business, engineering, science, and finance know-how. The EIF provides hand-holding support, contributing to the overall commercial viability and investment readiness, and level up to the market standards, helping also with the fund structuring. More generally, we support and sponsor teams until they achieve a critical mass and track record, allowing them to fundraise funds in the market independently. This fuels competition and expertise in the EU venture capital market by creating a multitude of specialized and eventually large funds that can give technical and financial support to European AI and blockchain companies. And this is our goal. Maybe to illustrate, let me present you two initiatives we launched over the past 2-3 years, the InnovFin AI blockchain equity pilot and the AI co-investment facility. So the first one, under the EU Investment Plan for Europe, the EIF launched a 100 million initiative aimed at stimulating investments in the field by investing in risk capital ventures whose strategies targeted AI blockchain-related activities, as well as co-investments alongside those equity funds investing in companies operating in these sectors. These investment strategies can target AI, blockchain, or both. The EIF has backed 13 teams, both generalist and fully specialized funds, covering both early stage and follow-on scale-up segment investments in the area, for instance, DLT blockchain, fintech, language and machine learning, automation, cybersecurity, smart cities, B2B software, and so on. These venture capital funds have a well-balanced geographical spread across Europe. And to mention a few, for instance, we have backed fintech in the Netherlands, Berlin Innovation and Flight Ventures in Germany, in Austria, Speed Invest, in Bulgaria, Launch Hub, the incubator, Fabric Ventures, fully specialized in blockchain in the UK, Marathon in Greece, and Down Capital 4 in Luxembourg, just to mention a few. We expect this pilot to be financing about 250 companies and mobilizing around 1.5 billion fundraised for the European economy. Another dedicated initiative is the EIB Group Co-Investment Facility. Under this facility, the EIF is co-investing alongside EIF-backed funds into European companies active in the AI space. The facility aims at improving access to finance for AI companies, which often require considerable financial resources before the business model becomes profitable. And mainly it has two overarching objectives. So on one hand is to support the EU to stay at the forefront of technological revolution and support European companies in the AI domain and be complementary to the existing funds invested backed by the EIF. We expect to build a portfolio of around 20 to 30 co-investments, which some of which are already materializing. But we expect new proposals to be submitted to us until 31st of December 2024. And now let me finally take you to what we will see in the future, in the imminent future. So in the next generation of financial products under InvestEU, the EIF and the Commission will increase certainly the efforts to help reduce this financing gap that we are seeing and dedicate a multi-billion euro budget to thematic investments and capacity building actions for fund managers who are pursuing investment strategies in these areas. More specifically, we will dedicate between 1 to 2 billion euro to support digital strategic technologies including AI, blockchain, quantum computing, cybersecurity, and other digital technologies as part of the new innovation and growth equity product that we are currently designing and negotiating with the Commission. Alongside that finance stream that I'm describing, we will accompany instruments with non-financing schemes, such as capacity building and advisory services, to help venture capital teams and their portfolio companies to be at the necessary investment readiness level and address the hurdles for investors in considering this asset class. There is certainly need for the development of analysts who are tech-savvy. We will be developing more funds to new players and investors with scientific background investing in disruptive technologies. And for this, we will use blended finance mechanisms to adapt financing needs to the type of technologies, and mitigate the risk of investors. Last year, also, following inquiries from managers launching funds with crossover strategies, the EIF started to explore how it could potentially support the EU IPO ecosystem. We believe that the EU public market would benefit from specialist financial intermediaries with investment strategies targeting pre-IPO and or public equity market investments. Such intermediaries can substantially support IPO fundraising by acting as anchor investors to take material allocation of the shares issued, providing a strong signaling effect and certainly reducing all the information asymmetries. You will therefore see more support going forward towards larger fund sizes, also IPOs investing at pre-IPO, at IPO and post-IPO stages, intensifying efforts into scale-ups and serving a market which we believe that would not be financed in Europe. It would be financed elsewhere. In the past EU budgetary period, we piloted also a 300 million program called Escalar, addressed to mitigating the financing gap experienced by the high-growth European companies, the scaled up, by investing in funds with an investment focus on scale-ups. It supported both new funds needing to achieve a larger critical mass to support such companies in their future portfolio, as well as existing funds seeking additional capital to make follow-on investments in scale-ups in their already existing portfolio. Also, diversity and women's empowerment is an increasingly important EU policy priority, needless to say. InvestEU will be the first program with the defined objective to foster economic empowerment of women and increasing the participation of women in the fields of venture capital and private equity. We will see gender gap finance addressed across all equity products and expect to increase the EIF share of investments in female-led teams. Also being aware that not all EU countries are developing risk capital markets at the same pace. We will seek to strike more portfolio diversification between the North and the South, the East and the West, particularly increasing intervention towards moderate and emerging innovative countries, according to the European Innovation Scoreboard. Another important intervention and market support mechanisms will be our new flagship initiative for capacity building and advisory services that I was mentioning. And these activities are foreseen as an accompanying measure for most of the EIF InvestEU financial products to support market awareness efforts, financial intermediaries investment readiness level, and overall facilitate a smooth rollout and absorption of these initiatives. Financial intermediaries considered for EIF financing may benefit from specific support actions which will be tailored to their needs. We will also be intensifying financing towards investors active in high-risk technologies, proof of concept, technology transfer, IP rights, and so on, and certainly supporting non-institutional investors such as business angels investing in AI and blockchain. Overall, we will run more thematically oriented investments strategies vis-a-vis from the past, and cross-cutting objectives under the equity financial instruments, which I mentioned before. Finally, we expect to launch InvestEU in the next few months, around December, January 2022. And we are really open to already discuss with market players on the opportunities that are on the horizon and provide some guidance. So if you're a financial intermediary and you're interested to learn more about our instruments, please feel free to contact us. If you're a company, please feel free to look into the websites to the financial intermediaries that we have backed. Thanks a lot for your attention, and see you soon.